Hey everybody, this is Perch. Hey, this show is intended to be lighthearted, right? I mean, you hopefully got that by now. Um, I get that there are people who kind of stumble into this stuff and they're hearing it for the first time or in the first video, like, who's this guy? Why is his audio so shitty? Why does he ramble on? But for the majority of you who are coming back day after day, yes, many of you do. This isn't intended to be deathly serious. So hopefully we'll just kind of keep that in mind, all right, as we go. um, I think I think that sometimes a lot of things in comics gets easier to digest, understand, deal with, if you just kind of take it a little bit easier. Just remember that you know if I took every bit of this seriously, I would drive myself insane. As somebody who's sold comics, sells comics, tries to do stuff in comics, helps people in comics, if I took every little minutia, every drama, every little piece seriously, it would be bad. I would lose my mind very very fast. But anyway, let's get to this mail. So one of the things I've talked about on this show before is the idea of self-inflicted wound. And this is a term I thought it was pretty widespread, but it's definitely common in business, where it's basically like you didn't have to make a mistake. You made a mistake and you caused your own problem. And an example of this might be, you have the Scarlet Witch, Vision and Scarlet Witch show. And it's your first show that's coming out on Disney Plus. It was delayed because of the pandemic, but it's coming out now. And it's the MCU on TV for kind of the first time. A lot of big expectations. And what does Marvel Comics do? They have none of the Scarlet Witch, the Vision Scarlet Witch limited series, those storylines. They don't have any of it in print. So you have to get to almost the end of the entire season before they manage to stumble out a few trades last second. And it's not like these trades weren't already done. They've sold them before. They just had to put them back in print. So that's an example of a self-inflicted wound. It was just money that was just free money out there for Marvel to take, but because of, let's just say dumb, because of the dumb, they didn't get that money. And that's an example of stuff that goes on. Comics has a lot of that. Wrestling also has a lot of that, like, while we make the comparisons. But wrestling, you have to assume a lot of that is fueled by steroids and cocaine. Is the answer. So it's a self-inflicted wound, but it's helped along by roids and coke, the killer cocktail, as Vince McMahon would say. Anyway, so here's a mail asking about a different self-inflicted wound. Let's hear what it says. It says, "Hey Marvel, I've been thinking about Marvel's. Hey Marvel. Hey Perch. See, I'm all excited to talk about Marvel. Hey Perch. I've been thinking about Marvel's various shortcomings lately, and I have to wonder if they're still dealing with the fallout of cutting off their nose to spite their face when Disney started trying to pressure Fox and Sony to give up their movie rights by deprioritizing the comics of the various properties that they had the rights to. As a result, Fantastic Four, X-Men, Spider-Man, and others suffered in their books, as if that would impact the movies. I don't believe Marvel's ever acknowledged that this was a mistake or something they're no longer doing. They just eventually bought Fox and then pretended they didn't spend 5 to 10 years trying to make fetch happen with the Inhumans. It really feels like Marvel hasn't recovered from that and aren't willing to invest the time and money that they need to repair the damage. I don't have sales data, but I'll bet if you look at 5 years before they moved to deprioritize books to today, the numbers show that they weakened their brand as a whole and continue to decline in overall sales. Just my takes, fan as casual observer. Okay, so I agree. I absolutely agree with that take. I think that, but it's hard to prove because over that same 5 year period, you had an overall softening of the business in general. So, what parts can you account to, Disney doing what they did with Marvel versus just the overall business kind of shrinking and other issues that went on in the 2016-2017 time period. Then you have manga coming in later, and that which dramatically improved the industry in the pandemic. So there's a lot of different factors in there that certainly impacted things negatively. But it's no doubt to me that definitely the company confused themselves and definitely confused the readers when they started doing this. Now, here's the interesting part, because Bleeding Cool reported on this and really aggressively ran with this story that Ike Perlmutter, who's a known kind of cheapskate and weirdo, Um, he basically had the mandate: you will deprioritize those properties, you will pull back, and we won't give Fox that money. And to the point where they said they were removing pictures from the wall that featured the Fantastic Four and stuff like that from the Marvel offices. Now, I know a few people in the Marvel offices. I can tell you that that part of the story, the pictures being removed from the wall, is 100% bullshit. But 100%, it's absolutely not true. But it's somewhere between that. The Ike, went around and told everybody we're not going to do anything for these comics anymore. Hey, screw those guys. I'm going home. It's somewhere between there and no, don't just keep business as usual is the truth. Because definitely there was a shift within Marvel where they decided to, not prioritize some of these characters, put other people on it, go all in with the movie brands. And it could be that this actually was not any kind of mandate or anything else, but this was Marvel basically saying, "Hey, we know what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to promote these books that are tied to the movies, and when we do that, the movie people all give us jobs, and then we'll have those jobs, and then we'll be Hollywood people. Screw those comics." I mean, was some of that playing into it? Probably. I mean, not just probably, almost assuredly. I think that there's a number of different factors. I think the thought process went out around Marvel editorial and some of the more senior execs saying, "Hey, if we really do a big event and publish a book that isn't being done by Disney, then it's going to hurt our chances of making our way into Hollywood and getting that Hollywood money and being a movie person. So let's not do it." I think there's some of that went on. But I will say I don't believe for a second the Rich Johnston story that they fully put an extra T in there for twat. Anyway, sorry. I don't believe the story that there was this big company wide push to rid the world of those characters. I don't buy it, and I don't buy it because there's enough evidence to suggest that some parts of business as usual, with trades, with marketing materials, with other things, operated like normal. And many characters that Marvel had the rights to, or Disney had the rights to make money off of, also kind of were not prioritized. So it's not like they just went for the stuff that Disney had the rights to. They deprioritized basically everything that the movies weren't taking and running with. And so I mean, that's Captain Marvel, for what it's worth, got heavily deprioritized until, well, it was Miss Marvel at the time, until Disney's like, yeah, we're going to do a movie here. And then suddenly, it started to pick up. Suddenly Bendis takes an interest. They start doing the stuff with House of M and everything else. But there was a period of time before that where that character also disappeared. So it's like, I don't buy it. But definitely something was going on with Marvel to do this. Now, the point of this mail is, have they ever recovered from that? And the answer, I agree, is no. I think that there is some confusion within the Marvel offices, and I think there's this belief. It's one of those institutional beliefs that winds up being incorrect. That, hey, the X-Men just prints money, so we can totally screw around with the X-Men. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Nobody will care. At any point, we can get the X-Men. We can bring them back, and just throw Wolverine on a cover, and when we're ready, he'll be a top seller again. So no worries. But that was wrong. And I think it kind of goes in the same vein of, we don't really understand the impacts of our business choices. If you spend 5 to 10 years, basically degrading, putting lower creative talent on these books, kind of ignoring things, it hurts. It hurts the property. So I think that there was, I think a number of things are going on there, but absolutely, Marvel, in their attempt to, and for whatever you believe the reason is, from Ike Perlmutter told them they had to a bunch of Marvel editors and writers believed that was their quickest way to get out of comics and get onto a better job, which is frankly my theory. Whatever the reason was, people started to ignore, deprioritize, and allow these kind of core characters from the Fantastic Four to the X-Men, to some extent Spider-Man, to suffer. And Spider-Man had the least of it, but they also had the biggest tie to Sony. So, But there were moments too in Spider-Man where, just it felt like the comics were actively working against what they were trying to do in the movies. Now, any smart business person would go and say, hey, if, even if we're not making all the money, it's still one of our characters, and we can utilize that hype to sell things and to make it stronger for us. And only a absolute maniac would sit there and go, hey, put less, let's kill off Wolverine for a while in the comics, because if the comics don't have, new comics featuring Wolverine, if they only have Grandpa Wolverine running around, then, you know, that's gonna stick it to Fox. Yeah, yeah. I, you'd have to run that strategy for like 50 years before it would even remotely start to impact Fox. Certainly more than a couple of years. But anyway, this is how people think. So that's kind of it's a good question. I'm curious what all of you think. Is this do you think that Marvel continues to struggle with these characters? Is this still a problem with them? And is this a definition of an unforced error, something Marvel did not need to do, but did anyway, and it took money out of their pocket? Overall, I mean, not so much Fantastic Four, but the X-Men and Spider-Man. How much money did the comic industry as a whole, DC, the indies, how much did that cost comics? Because some of the big tentpole books people were buying suddenly, had less attention put on them. How much do you think that hurt? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. And thanks for listening.